Good evening and welcome to Flat Earth United. Joining me this evening is YouTuber Snack to the Future. How are you doing, Snack?
I am doing great, Nathan, and wanted to thank you for inviting me here to speak with you. Should be a lot of fun. And shout out to all the audience members we got out there.
Hey man, this will be a first. We might as well we'll do it straight away. We'll do it validation boy style and just go straight to the shouting out of the people who are actually joining us. Why the hell not? So we've got Martin. How you doing, Martin? Flat Earth British Spec. We've got Rebel. Who's that? Somebody
That's
from the background during this
I think
show. We
that's a
shall
vet.
see. Zoe,
Huh?
be here in love. How you doing? Arwin. What else have we got? He normally shouts out the first four people in his room, doesn't he? So the first four. Wow, Patricia Steer would be no. Yvette was number one. So we may hear from her. She's technically on the show, so she wouldn't count on Validation Boy stream. So we've got Patricia Steer, then Yvette again, Arwin, and then who's this? Stepson, Porn, Flat Earth could be a troll. Maybe that'll be the first subject we come to. But hello, one and all. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll shout you out as and when you join. Got Globebusters running at the moment, so we may have a massive audience for the moment, but I'm sure once they end, we'll get a few more people joining us.
That's cool. Well, I'd like to do some shout outs if you don't mind, Nate. I'd like to shout
Go
out
ahead.
Zoe, my friend and fellow musician. What is up? Love you. What's going on? Spec, what's going on, my man? How are you? My brother Martin Leake. Hope I said that not butchery. Jibby, what's going on, my friend? And PMAR, how are you, my friend? What's going on? Hope everything's all right. And Erwin, I've never really talked to you, so but hi, all the same. Yeah, cool. I'm good. Thank you, Nathan.
That made a nice change. I don't normally do the shout outs at all, but occasionally I'll do them sort of mid to halfway through, if I do them at all. But yeah, it's nice to do shout outs to people. I've got a lot of appreciation. I'm about to hit 1 million views on this channel. So on Nathan Oakley 1980, it's something like 991,000, and I get maybe 1,000 views a day. So hopefully in the next, I don't know, 10 days, I'll get 1 million views, which is, I don't know, amazing to me. I know there's channels out there that do a hell of a lot more than that, but for Joe Blogs normal me to get 1 million views, chatting away with good folk like yourself, that's pretty astonishing, you know, and it's down to my guests and my audience, which is you and the people watching. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm very, very appreciative. Normally, before we started the show, when I've done other shows, it would all be primarily flat earth based talk. And before we started this show, it was talk about music, talk about hi-fi, talk about tech, because that was my introduction to Snack to the Future. So I saw you on a Hangout. I couldn't even tell you what channel it was on, but you were showing people some of your gadgets. So maybe you can fill the audience in on a bit of that before we get into anything flat Earth related.
Sure, it was around Christmas time, I think, probably a little bit before, and I had anticipated that it was going to get a little slower in the weeks approaching Christmas. So just to start, like, I don't know, just to keep something going. I was, I'd like plug in some old like drum machines from like 80 or before, maybe pre 1980s drum machines, and just like have fun, kind of like remixing like old 45s and things like that. So it was just kind of like a lo-fi party, but at the same time, like I was sort of unearthing all of this as I was preparing to move. So yeah, it was just fun to kind of like reminisce on it, play with it a little bit, and then just like and yeah, just like I guess show the audience a little bit of what I'm into. I guess, yeah, something like that. But,
yeah, it's geek chic, proper cool. I love that stuff.
Geek chic. Yeah, I mean, some of those pieces I'm actually really proud of having, but like nobody else would get it. It's just like I know that they're hard to find. There's still probably a few synths out there that I'm looking to find from like 1980 and right around there. So actually, one of them's called.
I don't care if the audience is bored by any of this because this is fascinating to me. What are you looking for?
Yeah. Oh, it's called a Tronic. It was later replaced by I believe it's that. I want to say it's the Oakley chord. Actually, it's a type of it's almost like an auto harp. If anybody's familiar with that, but it's electronic based, and That's one of my unicorns that I'm looking for, and one day I'll find it. For like not $200. So I don't know. I guess some of it too is just like collecting it to maybe resell it. But I usually fall in love with things I collect, so that kind of ends that.
No, not at all. I mean, these things are just folly, but ultimately, I don't know if it is folly because it's making a sound. So it's a nice instrument at the end of the day. I was rude enough to call them toys in the chat when you were showing them, but some of them aren't toys, but they still produce music.
Yeah, I mean, I collected basically just like analog, anything with an analog chip in it because they can be modified, I guess, and you can make the sounds like all sort of short circuited. So I guess a lot of it I bought under that. Uh, I don't know, feature. I guess I was just like collecting analog instruments from a certain period of time. But yeah, I love like the stylophone. There's like many like classic keyboard sounds out there. Like stylophone was used in if you don't know, like it was used in the song Space Oddity. It's been used by a couple other bands, but it's the whole solo with the synthesizer in Space Oddity is literally just like it's a I think it's a one voice like voltage oscillating synthesizer with like basically a pen that you would actually touch metal to activate the keys. I mean, it's just fantastic. Like how far music and technology have come in just a short span of time. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little bit like I
Sorry,
don't
go on.
know. I don't know. I just like old things. I guess I'm a little sentimental about different eras because they'll never really come back. You know what I mean? Like the same sounds never come back. Like even synthesizer sounds from the 1980s are nothing like what uh, they are today, unless they're just trying to, be a sort of a throwback to that. But yeah, that's funny that we had a big long conversation about like I could go on probably for another 2 hours, but I'm not going to.
That was one part of that conversation was definitely fascinating, just because it completely put it into context, and it got a wow out of me, which was when you were explaining about how they got reverb on a particular recording. Maybe if you can go through that, because that was fascinating.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about recording studios and like I guess prior to any kind of like reverb units that were in existence, they actually would record it like they'd have a band like the Ventures, like on maybe the I think the 14th floor or something like that of CBS Records, and they'd shunt the signal all the way down to the basement, put it through amplifiers, and then re-record the reverb that was in the basement of the CBS building. So there was like a lot of production that was done with like fairly crude, I guess, comparably very crude methods. So I don't. Yeah, it's just fun to. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Like I relate a lot of things back to the Atari because at the time that was like the cat's meow, and then everything is always going to be improved upon in terms of technology. But I always look at everything that's coming out as like this is the Atari of now. It's going to be outdated in 5 years. It's going to be improved upon by other companies. So it's nice to understand some of the traditions that have like gone through some very almost like Stone Age technology, recording wise or music wise. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I'm fascinated by that, but I don't know. I don't want
Do you
to
remember on the
make this all about.
Atari, you'd have the Atari, and it was poor graphics and all the rest of it, playing tennis or whatever, but you'd have an aftermarket joystick. It would be the most elaborate, amazing, look like it had come off a warship, like massive joystick
Right.
for your
Like
Atari.
you fly like an F-15 with that or something.
Exactly, yeah. Just bonkers joysticks for Ataris. I mean, I'm sure you've got some flight simulator joysticks these days that are still absolutely amazing, but back then it was pointless because you were playing Frogger with it or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, another interesting thing too is like a lot of the technology that was created that suited Atari was really like not reverse engineered, but it was like extra missile parts basically. Like they there was no direct um, how do I even say this? Like joysticks didn't exist for a certain period of time. Um, the ability to like change a whole program based on one input was it didn't it really was created for missiles. So um, that's how like a missile can adjust really fast. So that actual technology was like kind of taken off, the military, and it was put into creating video games because you've got like direct application of your commands to it, as in a joystick. But fascinating how uh, Atari's fascinating actually. I don't know.
Well, it certainly brings you onto an interesting topic I didn't think we'd get to covering. I mean, a lot of the wars that we have now are similar to the games that are out there. I mean, I tested my graphics card, which primarily is used for editing, but the way to test it, and I like to overclock my PC, was to buy a modern game, a challenging game, and run that rather than some synthetic way of testing it. But yeah, and by using those games, I was quite shocked at not just how realistic they are, but you need to, like planning a war, you're planning strategy on these games. And you think these are being presented to, on the whole, kids. A lot of them are 18 certificate, but I'm sure there's 12 and 13-year-olds playing these crazy games these days. I mean, maybe this is a subject that I've caught you on the hop with and you've got no interest in, but I don't know, we'll see.
What, like modern games you're talking about?
Yeah, modern computer games. You've got Call of Duty and such. If you're into YouTube, generally speaking, you'll see this crop up at some stage anyway, just on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely, like Battlefield and Halo, and there's a ton of first-person shooter games. I guess that's probably where I started to stop playing, or I stopped playing video games, was right around the time when that became like every game was coming out as a first-person shooter, because I think probably I enjoyed like side-scrolling games more, or like whatever. I'm totally geeking out here, but it's just kind of like, I guess I got too old to be spending all my time playing video games, I guess, which is, maybe that's a sad thing to say, but I don't know. I guess I reached a point where I was like, I sucked at them too. Like an 8-year-old kid could totally whip my ass, like in Halo, obviously. The controller's not even the same for me. Like, I'm used to like a Nintendo 8-bit system controller. Like if I could play Halo on that, I would be wrecking everybody. So
right. So if it was a perfect square and had those like really springy buttons, then you'd be happy peppering. You have that peppering, pressing the button really fast.
Yeah.
We should really start talking about flat Earth, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that are shaking their head now going,
yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, flat Earth. So there, it's flat.
That's it. That's it. So anybody watching, we'll just state that again, because we're going to move on. The Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Moving on. How did you end up debating?
So what kind of 8-bit? No, I'm just joking.
I said about that 8-bit music track we shared. Yeah, awesome. I was going to ask, how did you end up? I saw you again recently in the most calm debate with with Lord Stephen Christ, I should say. Very different people. And yeah, you were very calmly taking his arguments to pieces. I assume that's not the first time you and him have locked swords.
No, I think probably around the time that we did. I guess it was what, FE Public Access. I think FE Public Access that we did. Yeah. That's when we started messing with LSC, because I don't know. I think he was kind of a little more active at that point, and it just felt like, well, between myself and Cathexis and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, we wanted to bring him a little bit of kind of a counter argument, but we wound up kind of, Cathexis had driven down to Estero, Florida, to kind of do a little bit of an excavation on the concave whatever commune that was in Estero, Florida, and it was great because Hitchhiker's Guide kind of went into some of the foundations of like the concave cellular cosmogony, dating back to, I guess, Cyrus Teed, from the late part of the 1800s, and it was just kind of a fascinating debunk on his claim to being, I guess, Jesus and such. I thought it was necessary to kind of address him, because I don't know. Like I think that there are at times there are sort of people who are almost like villains to the flat Earth cause, and I think at the time I kind of considered him that. But he actually may be a more illustrative personality that kind of shows you about what like a cult, a real flat Earth cult might look like. You know, with like one leader that claims to be Messiah and stuff like that. So he might be like serving some kind of purpose for us, as in speaking about flat Earth, because I certainly do think you know, anybody who was to try to claim to be the Messiah would obviously, look incredibly silly, in light of like all of LSC's shenanigans, I guess. But I do think that there's some good things about LSC's brain, maybe in his ability to kind of like uh, track down some maybe obscure facts or some uh, I don't know, his thinking is sometimes it's interesting, but not for the fact that I'm going to consider a concave Earth, but just for the fact that he's looking into certain things and kind of skewing them to apply to concave Earth. That it sort of alerts me that perhaps there's another avenue here to look at. You know what I mean?
It seems like
But
a
yeah,
plot that's been explored because Cyrus T followed the same path. He also declared that he was God, did he not?
yeah, as did David Koresh also, and as like um LSC kind of proclaims to be like the ninth iteration of Christ, which would make um, it makes a whole kind of family tree of unsavory cult leaders, I guess. But but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's weird. I guess in trying to be um, supportive of the flat Earth argument, that I've kind of seen certain people as ones that I'd like to kind of debunk, I guess. And LSC was like a fine first example. Actually, I was going to do some things with quasi-luminous, but I never wound up doing that because um, I became like way too busy with the free um, channel and those kinds of things. Really became its own kind of community, and
I mean,
it's sort of
we can come back onto free chat, but
yeah, we
definitely
can
that
do
would be the largest chunk of our conversation, I'm certain. But
it.
you've mentioned quasi-luminous, and
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Quasi-luminous to me seems like he has some sort of sickness, if that's the right word. Would you agree?
I would I would say that. I mean, it's just yeah, I can follow him for about a minute, and then he's going to say something that's really going to like kind of jar with my thinking. But I mean, that's just me. I mean, maybe other people find him to be more sane, but I don't see much in the way of sanity. Um, I don't know. It's a tough road. I think he's trying to like decode all these logos and uh, for that I think it's kind of interesting. I like the logo decodes, but I also don't necessarily think anybody has got like the ability to see all the things the right way. So he's going to make some mistakes, and but he seems really committed to his beliefs, which is another. I don't know. Sometimes when people are a little too committed, maybe it's like I feel like they should be committed. I'm not really sure. I don't know how to answer that,
As in sectioned?
but possibly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of sympathy I feel for him when I watch, because it does seem like you're looking into the eyes of madness sometimes when you're watching Quasi-Luminous. And like you say, there are elements of his videos that I really enjoy. There are connections that he sees that other people haven't put forward. So it's enjoyable to watch Quasi-Luminous, but at the same time, I feel a bit sorry for him.
hmm. Yeah. I mean, I really haven't watched expert on quasi-luminous, but I mean, I think the
No,
whole you
that's
can't.
fair enough. I was just trying to gauge your opinion on him. It's a loose
Yeah,
conversation.
no, I guess these types of LSC and quasi, I guess they sort of are on the similar coordinate of wherever, they're sort of similar, I suppose. They're
I
both
can
sort
see
of
where
on
you're
the
going with this. I mean, I think it's what you're
extreme.
trying to explain is that people will see this small corner of the flat Earth as potentially being like a cult. Now, from the inside, I'm sure you'll agree, it's very fractured. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of dissension, whatever. But to the outsider, they might just see us all as tinfoil hat wearing, bongo playing, sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya, all Christian, whatever. We'll get stereotyped. And the actual stereotype, the actual cults, you can point out, and LSC is definitely a good example of that. He has got a cult following, and he is a cult leader. There's no two ways about that. So when I see you in the chat with him going, no, that's not how it is. Not arguing, not getting. You could tell your blood temperature didn't rise 1 degree. So that's why I assumed you'd spoken to him many times before, because you were so cool and calm with him. Just no, that's not correct. That's not how it works. I also saw Tom Foolery.
I'm not easily intimidated, I guess. I intimidate myself more than anybody can intimidate me. I'll tell you that. But it's like, it's just like, I don't know. I think at any given time there are certain people who are like really going against the flat Earth, and at the time I thought he was one of the biggest ones, and for probably one of the worst reasons. So it seemed like a natural one to kind of take on a little bit. But I don't have a problem taking anybody on like that. I mean, I'm not going to go take on Quasi-Loomis. I really think that guy probably needs a break from everything, to be honest. He's a whatever.
Yeah, but it's nice. If you want to see how a cult works, go and have a quick look at LSC.
Well, I mean, like, certainly I think Quasi you could probably put in the cult status as well with the whole blood over intent thing. But as far as like LSC is using like the blueprint of a cult to base its whole movement on. So yeah, it is necessarily cult. And I don't know. I sort of have trouble with the whole use of the word cult, I suppose. Like it's I think a lot of things are cult like. It could even be the type of cell phone you use. It could even be the type of toothpaste you like to buy. Those could be kind of like considered by somebody else to be a cult, but we're not talking about a religious cult where you would join up. As far as those kinds of cults are concerned, I think that really anything that's going to preach, come believe this because there's imminent doom heading your way. To me, that feels exactly like what a cult, the kind you should stay away from type of cult is going to be. Not like a cult fan of Star Wars or Back to the Future for that matter. It's like certain things have like cultural import, or when there's a sort of a cult following of a movie, So there's a lot of different misuses for this word. If you're going to try and compare it to somebody that's running an actual cult where you declare them as being your messiah, there's a difference, So I the only thing I can, because I can't stop LSC from talking. The only thing I can do is be grateful that he's there to illustrate the point of what a cult is and what it looks like. So that's all I have to say about him, really.
Yeah, I mean, one last point on that was about his minions. I mean, I still to this day, although I find it laughable, get trolled, and the comments are actually laughable. In other words, they are quite amusing. Someone will go on a little ramble about how wrong I am, and it'll be, it'll catch your attention. So he's got his trolls trained well enough to at least capture my a laugh. So I'll leave the comment up, but at the end it's 100% concave will be the conclusion that the comment draws. And it's like, why do I still to this day get trolled by concavers? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I do. So who knows? Maybe it's because the truth, the reality is not akin to their idolatry, and their idolatry is the same as the globe idolatry. It's just reversed in every single respect. But yeah, I think we should probably move on from concave or cellular or however it's been rebranded next week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I've never really ever considered any of that research to be valid. But Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
Brian Mullen would disagree. He wants to make a rectilineator, doesn't he?
that's not bad. I believe he'd probably disprove concave Earth also. I'm also not sure how you engineer a rectilineator, but Brian Mullins is a real engineer. I only play one on TV. So, but yeah, if he can figure out how to make it so that sand uh, doesn't sink, he'll be fine. He'll have a really great rectilineator.
Yeah, for sure. I should.
Let's
I
see.
should start. I'm going to start with not start. I'm going to use the question I would usually start with now, which is to
Okay,
say, how did you find out Earth is flat?
that's a good question. That's a good question. Well, I started out investigating. Uh, I would suppose it's things to do with pop culture and things to do with like the news and I figured out that there's a probably greater than 90% possibility that we're being lied to on a massive scale. So um, in that was I guess I was kind of hit to it by a friend of mine, friend in real life, not on YouTube, um, to check out the flat Earth, and I did. And at first, I had a lot of questions because I guess my confirmation bias would have told me that the Earth was round because of all the things I've ever been taught in my life. So it took some time for me to kind of rationalize these things out. Um, and so to be honest, I started out like on YouTube. The whole Snack to the Future account was created basically so I could send one comment to Crow 777, and you know that was it. I exchanged a couple messages with him, and then later I kind of found really the biggest thing for me that I found was live flat Earth stuff. To me, that completely changed the dynamic of this as a viewer to a participant. Yeah, that was a big deal.
So you came to what is essentially displayed on screen now, which is the live chat rooms scrolling away while people are chatting in the background. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was like, "What is this?" Because like I was actually kind of new to YouTube at the same time, and I was on one of either it was like Ace McLeod or it may have been Vet or it may have been Dave Hinkle running late night flat Earth hangouts, and I didn't even know that there were live hangouts at that time. So um, yeah, I thought it was great, and I didn't get on. Actually, I was a little bit intimidated to jump on at first. I was intimidated because I didn't think I had enough knowledge or that maybe I didn't have the right stuff to speak to somebody else on the internet. Um, and plus, there was a lot of contentious political stuff that kind of got mixed in to some of those hangouts. So I kind of just I like to participate in chat, and that's kind of where I started at. I guess was just being in chats, being on like in the chat of one of Patricia's shows or your shows or anything else that was live. But I really enjoyed the live feel and being able to interact with other YouTubers via the live chat. I thought that was really super. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. I wound up.
So many people out there. There's going to be people watching this either live or on the re-upload that absolutely relate to that feel exactly the same way. And more as time progresses, I see people that I recognise from the chat, recognise scrolling up like whoever, Troy, Edward, Al Got Wood, who's telling me to watch out for my pictures of kids. Just go to my Facebook, my friend. Anyway, there's going to be people out there like that start off in chat and are, as I'm seeing now, talking. They're actually on talking about the subject that is compelling lots and lots of people. I know I keep saying it's a small corner of the internet, but this is apparent. There are more people who start off coming, some of them as detractors, and end up talking to us live on air. It's amazing. You're one of them, so there'll be people who can relate to that in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, I never really detracted. I was always very supportive of the flat Earth. I'll call it a conjecture. I think it's better than theory at this point. Um, but I started out um, when I was commenting, I was supportive of the whole idea. I was supportive of the question, and also at the same time, like I knew that there were so many areas of research that I'd probably never get to them all, um, and I've gotten to a lot of them, so that I really exceeded my own expectations in this. So that was great. It's been a very positive experience, but yeah, it's also it's a little bit difficult too because you're dealing with people, and people are by and large more of a mystery than the shape of the Earth, in my opinion.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you ended up, we've got there in the end, which is to free Chan. And, you know, if you wanted to do a little social experiment, I had to do it now just to find a few screen caps for the advert. But, you know, you end up compelled to watch what happened on free Chan because it was absolutely amazing. You've recently, in the last month or so, did a little channel ad and had a few more shows. But is it something that will continue? I know you're doing it on a slower scale, if anything, at the moment, but is that going to continue into the future?
I guess I'm happy they asked that. It was sort of the intention of Yvette and I to sort of restart it when I got out here to New Mexico. But I'll tell you what, the climate was uh, very different, and I mean the climate on YouTube, it changed very, very drastically in a very short time. So um, it, it seemed like a little bit toxic, I guess, even a couple months ago. So it's kind of been adjusting, and I don't know. Maybe if there's a time when it's right, we would love to come back, and we would love to, host, you know, hangouts again. But like I said, it's been tough, and 'cause there's a lot of different personalities on here, and I guess some of them don't have my best. I have haters, and I have great pals that I've made. Uh, but shout out to my haters. Um,
You may as well go through them. I mean, these are people that, I mean, certainly if I named a couple who've got not Snacks of the Future, sorry, Cathexis and Spectacles, who have both done formerly Flat Earth UK. I've renamed the show. I'll come to that later. But these are people that presumably you're talking about. Name and shame some of these people. Why not?
well, those are my friends. I mean, Cathexis and Spec, they've been great. Um, uh, as far as people hating on me, like yeah, like I don't know what with YouTube and Multi Tauntaun and I don't know, a lot of people from I would imagine the Fed area of Flat Earth Hangouts or people that maybe just didn't fit in with the free chain crowd. And I guess I bear some responsibility for that in their mind. We when we began free chan, it wasn't like as if we could have inherited today's uh, group that's watching flat Earth content. We were we just had what we had to work with, and we decided to give it a shot. But I think we were totally fair. But that doesn't mean I didn't have my detractors. I mean, Andre Sensia really kind of railed against us, and he was, running hangouts where a lot of these people were from. So maybe they have a little bit of a bone to pick with me because of something someone else said. Um, I don't know. All I know is I've tried my best to to let the flat Earth argument speak and to not like be drowned out by uh, circular globe proofs, over and over ad nauseum. Um, Trying to progress a little bit in terms of the argument, but not only the argument but the people too, because I think that it's important. People are important, and I put people above models, and I just have done that because people are much more real than the intangible concepts that we're talking about. So I don't know. I'm getting a little lost here, Nathan. You want to re-steer me
That's all
here?
right. I'm absolutely engrossed in what you're saying. I've never heard it phrased like that. You put people before models. I mean, that's profound.
There's going to be people that disagree, and honestly, if there were no disagreements with anything on flat Earth, then could you really call it a conversation? You know, um, I don't know.
You can always
I was a little bit.
you need the
No, so,
detractors. If you haven't got detractors, you've got just a circle jerk. You've just got people agreeing with each other, nodding away. Every new idea is a good idea. And unless you've got the people who, well, Cathexis described 3chan as like a containment center for the
he did.
trolls.
He said that, and you know, for a time, and this was like basically a month where we were the only game in town for a lot of these people like Negator and Gem Panda and others, Zysis, that they all like left when Andreas Sensi came back because they kind of wanted it a little bit less in favor of the flat Earth, and I don't know. Did, as far as like they seem to be like kind of on the honorable debater side, I guess. But the trolling game was complete. I had never really anticipated what that actually was, and I guess I didn't really have an accurate context because I wasn't really on the internet all the time. So that's really its own culture. Trolling is sort of its own culture. Totally remove it from flat Earth completely. It is sort of a modern sort of attitude or something like that. I don't know. That took a little bit of like everything. It takes adjustment for me. So, but that was one of them. And then it was really overall like, and I'll just say this because like David Quintana, like I used to like have wrenches on certain shows, and I'd be banning him all the time, and because he'd just be trying to agitate all the time. It was just part of how he was. I don't know, just trying to engage the topic, I suppose, or maybe that's saying too much. I don't know. Anyway, he was somebody that I used to ban, and then at a certain point, like he actually kind of liked me, I think, and we kind of like had fun. Like we actually do have like a lot of kind of common interests. We both like music and art, animation, and laughing. You know what I mean? Comedy, I think, is also a part of a commonality that I have with him, and it's sort of like I never asked him to. It's weird. Like I can't take the idea that if I want to be friends with P Mars, or if I want to be friends with David, or if I want to be friends, who you name it, anybody can fall out of favor, and anybody can be, demonized and stuff like that. I don't know. So I guess that's the people before models kind of thing, because to be honest, like those people that get like shut out of this become worse monsters than you can even think that they would ever become. When they feel like they're being ostracized, when they feel like they're on the outsides, they act worse. They'll do things just for fun, and they don't care what you think anymore. Like you've already kind of taken yourself out of the equation. So I think there's something valuable in trying, like you're running Flat Earth United. I think that's kind of what we were, I don't know, trying to stumble into. You know what I mean? It was just like to have everybody be and sort of a part of this conversation where it didn't become about, like a cult mentality, or it didn't become about, you know, uh, favoritism, or, it's a long time ago now. It's been a couple months since we were really, doing the free chan, and what had come after that was a bit confusing for us too. But I don't know. We put in a damn lot of hours. I'll tell you that. I put in, probably a few hundred, if not more than that, just on my own, like over the time that we were running. So, and probably countless of more hours just like being online.
There's certainly a mentality that's shifted in the last couple of years in the flat Earth arena, which is, I can cast my mind back a couple of years and remember almost being instructed by some of the videos that I watched to go and troll NASA. And you think these people now, in a social way, we've evolved beyond that. We still have trolling, as you well know, but we kind of have to understand that what we put out is potentially going to be mirrored straight back at us. So when we're out there trolling NASA, as I certainly did, I can't remember what the event was called, truth bombing or something like that, and everyone was on a certain day just there trolling the hell out of NASA. Well, to be ruthlessly honest, though, I took it as an opportunity to ask them some awkward questions. You know, if they're getting bombarded, why not, you know, ask that question that will be shot down by 100 trolls in their rooms if it's not a day when everyone's trolling them. But I asked them quite a few questions on that day. But it's my point being that you realize, or I do certainly, and I hope others do now, that if you behave like that, if you just go out and troll people or attack people or make up stories about people with no proof and no evidence, that you can kind of expect that behavior to come back at you eventually, because that's what you're putting out there. You're kind of showing people that that behavior is actually acceptable when it isn't. So yeah, the trolls, they're good. You used Stephen Christ as an example of almost, this is not how to behave. Look, here's an example. And sometimes you have to hold a mirror up to yourself and say, well, how do I behave? Am I a good person? Am I very trolly? I know certainly I am. But you kind of have to evolve beyond that and go, as a community, socially, we need to develop further. And this is definitely flat earth related. And you can tell by the terms we're using, it's all about the people, it's about the community. So I like that people before models, it definitely resonates with me. I like it a lot. So I say that because you're kind of stumbling over your words going, is this making any sense? And I know I'm not reading the chat at the moment, but I know that it'll resonate with people. So it's good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. It's just hard to like take somebody that you might see like a good person and to just like basically dump them because they want to believe whatever they want to believe. I mean, it's like, for me, I don't care that much about it to like hurt somebody's feelings over it, you know, or to like, I don't know, that's.
I know what you mean. I definitely couldn't imagine a world where me and my wife were signing divorce papers because she doesn't want to believe that it's flat, for example. You know, her argument is always going to be, I keep my options open, I can't go up to space, which was the very, very first conversation we ever had. Her and I did our first hangout together on her channel, and that was the conversation, and it hasn't changed. Her argument being, you know, if I can go up on a rocket and have a look and see that it's completely flat, then fine, I'll put my stamp in that box. But until then, I'm not prepared to discount the globe because I can't go up and see, which is the paradigm they've got us trapped in. That's what they want. But, you know, she typifies it, and that's not going to cause us to fall out far from it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot to this subject too. And you're probably not like, well, what do you think about like, you know, flight paths, or what do you think about, you know, because that's not, because you know that's not productive. You know what I mean? Like, you understand that someone is only going to be more and more distant the harder you try to sell them on something. And it does seem like some people try to sell flat earth on people, but I actually, I don't believe in, like, even if I thought I knew like the undisputed truth, I don't think I'd be telling people that they have to believe the same thing. I think I would just be like, I believe this because this is what I believe. And, you know, to me, that's enough. To me, that's like, that's cool, because like, you know, you can watch me play with like a drum machine and I'll tell you what I think. But I'm not going to feel poorly about somebody because they don't agree with me. That's like me saying like, you either agree that jazz is the greatest music ever, or, you know, get the F out of here. And that's not any way I'm going to continue a conversation with somebody. So, you know, because it might take some people longer than others to like be familiar with the material, or shit. I don't know. Like, there's people that say that they can decide that the Earth's flat within 20 minutes of watching a video. That may be true. It's going to take you like another year to figure out who your friends are in flat Earth. And for me, to kind of put my finger on sometimes is, you know, who's stable, who's going to like flip on me in like a minute because somebody else said something about me. I mean, you know, that's really been the tougher part of this, you know, like, cause I don't know. It's like in coming into this, I had dropped so much of the things I used to like in terms of like music or movies or cartoons, even, you know, which I do still love them all. But it's a lot of things have changed for me, and that had happened before Flat Earth. So Um, I think, yeah, I place a high importance on people. I like people, but they are usually assholes. I'm just kidding.
You've said something that you've downplayed, and I'm going to talk it up as much as possible. You were like,
Okay.
well, I kind of know that's how I feel about it, and that's enough. But don't undersell that. I mean, that's the power of it. That's the most amazing part. And to hear at the end that you say, well, I kind of came to that pre-flat Earth, or in spite of flat Earth, or whatever. You know, it's not necessarily as a consequence of finding out the Earth is flat. Well, that also makes me quite pleased, because I see flat Earth as a trigger to realizing that, yeah, you don't have to go around influencing everybody and telling everybody to believe what as you do. It's more about that bit in the Matrix when the Oracle turns him around and shows him that bit in Latin and says it means know thyself, and that's really what it's all about.
You're so right with that. Actually, I don't. I think all you can do on here is just be who you are, because that's the only thing. No one can debunk your true self, you know. And so, if your perspective tells you to pay attention to this, or that this might be not true, or this is true, I mean, that's your perspective. You've earned that in living. So I don't. I think it's a good thing to kind of try to be yourself on here. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times we're sort of driven to be and something more than that, or that we need to like take up the flat earth argument for all flat earthers, or we, you know, or the globers in turn would need to take up the globe argument for all globers, you know, in some sort of honor or something. I don't know. It's like, it's tough. There's a lot of different psychologies out here. And I've always been fascinated by the globers, maybe even more than the flat earthers, just for their rarity. I think the outspoken glober types are a pretty rare variety. Um, I don't agree with them usually, but they are accountable for what they say, and they can trace it back to some other. I guess that's good to have some kind of rigorous type, you know, personalities in this. I guess that does help keep everybody honest. Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna give some clarity to what you mean there,
yeah,
because
sure.
there's going to be people who picture Neil deGrasse Tyson and say, "What do you mean he's a rarity?" And that's not who you're
Oh,
talking about. You're talking
I
about,
don't
like,
mean
you're,
YouTubers.
you're talking Negator X, and
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
a rare breed of
Yeah.
anti-flat Earth globe head. That's quite a specific category of people. You know, there's going to be plenty of people out there that are globe heads that believe they live on a spinning globe. That's nearly everybody. But these are a
Sure.
different category of people that literally
They're
come to
I
detract.
and if I can just like bring up like Gem Panda and Negator, they're both people that enjoy games. They're people that enjoy strategy games, card games, fantasy things. They are people who enjoy fantasy things, and I feel like their belief is that we are in this fantastic like state. We're living magical thinking or something, and they need to bring us back to it, like back to some sort of reality. That's what I compute after watching them day after day go try to do this, you know. So you know, or they're paid. I'm just kidding. I don't necessarily believe in any
You know,
paid
you're spot
agents,
on.
but
Jeremy spends his time in Second Life, is it called?
yeah, well, that's what the Gem Panda is actually, is a module pack that he had, um, basically like a startup business that he paid for to create the Gem Panda for the game Second Life. Right. And Negator enjoys playing Magic the Gathering and Warhammer 40K. I find these things to be interesting. Like, I stopped playing games when I was like 18, although I did kind of briefly pick up Grand Theft Auto Vice City because it's 1980s. So, but that's not because I like video games that much, or games. You know, I really prefer to be, you know, doing things like playing music, or you know, working on music, or artwork, or something creative. You know, so
I'm back here chuckling because Grand Theft Auto. I was like, that rings a bell. Why does that immediately make my blood boil? And that was one of the games I bought when I bought this PC, and I've not played it. I mean, I have played it because I've got it to test the graphics card. But all I remember from Grand Theft Auto is swearing at it because it was, you know, it was while I was trying to overclock the PC that I was running this stupid game. You know, yeah, load of old rubbish. But yeah, funny. Sorry. Total tangent.
Well, it's actually funny because a lot of people are talking about Grand Theft Auto now and being able to kind of view everything as a flat plane, is interesting. I mean, that's not a flat Earth proof, but it's interesting that game designers would uh, would be doing that. It's also kind of like interesting how difficult it is to program a spherical model inside of a computer. Um, Microsoft Flight Simulator had a lot of problems doing that in the early versions. I don't know if they've figured it out yet, but I mean, the processor speed has become, multiplied by manyfold at this point. But
Yeah, I'd love to give
yeah,
credit.
it's a lot of processing to just create something that's so simple that nature made it, right?
Yeah, well, the
Oh,
simplistic answer that we all deal with on a daily basis isn't that it's a globe, it's that it is actually flat. That's the reality. That's the starting point. That's the conversation I had with Tim Osman, which was to say that, I don't really need to prove anything to you because all of the proofs point towards everybody working with it being flat anyway. And I was about to say, I was rudely interrupting, I'm sorry, but there was I can't remember who the videographer is. Leave a comment below if you do know who this was, but was comparing exactly that. It took a load of flight simulators and basically said, look, they all work on the same premise that it's flat and that none of them deviate from that. Doesn't matter how high you go, it doesn't matter how big a map you look at, it's always a flat plane that they're working with. And no, it's not a flat Earth proof, but that's because it's ultimately simulating reality. Is just that reality is flat.
I do find it interesting. And there's like Minecraft is flat too. Minecraft is an infinitely flat game. It's interesting that there are a lot of people kind of like experiencing this kind of virtual world that may be very similar to a flat world. And you know, I hope that um, if this truth is allowed to progress, that there'll be a generation behind us, or a couple generations now, um, that's kind of been living this kind of like physical, even in cyberspace, for them to be able to later say like, oh, the Earth's flat. It won't be that much of a shock to them. Um, it really shouldn't be a shock to anybody. I guess if the world is flat, everything's still running the same way. Everything is doing what it's doing. So it's not like uh, this type of kind of Armageddon type of doomsday scenario. It's really just a redefinition of the perceptions that we would have about space or light or the Earth. I mean, this does not have to be a contentious uh, argument. It just is, and it is for reasons that are, I think, a lot of times interpersonal, more so than they are fact based or conjecture based. Um,
Yeah,
Cognitive dissonance and the like, and that kind of thing.
the globe is a mental construct. It's not a physical one. I mean, you said earlier that somebody might watch a video and then come to the conclusion that it's flat within 20 minutes, and that's fine. For me, it was much, much, much quicker than that. It wasn't 20 minutes. It was just hearing those two words put together by Math Powerland in a crazy video about something unrelated. And hearing those two words was enough for me to realize what I'd experienced. And I'd had lots of parts of my journey through life that I'd gone, that makes no sense if we live on a spinning ball, but put it to the back of my mind, only for it to very much come to the forefront when I heard those two words put together. But that's not most people's experience, which is where I'm going with this. Going forward into the future, there's certainly with technology that I see coming in the world of computing, they will eventually slim down the VR technology that's being worn on backpacks with PCs that are powered by huge batteries and giant VR headsets. They'll eventually slim that down to the type of Google Glass scenario where they can literally augment our entire reality around us. And I expect that's what they would like. Ultimately speaking, the reason we have this mental construct, this globe that we assume we live on, or most people assume they live on, is because of the two-dimensional images that are presented to them through their television sets, through their iPads, through their mobile phones. And at the moment, it doesn't need to be augmented. It doesn't need to be on a headset. Most people walk around like that. looking at their phone as they walk, and some of them get run over. You know, I'm sure there's probably been government-based ad campaigns in some countries to stop people from getting run over because they're walking in, looking at their phones and looking at their Facebook. But I think going forward, that will only get worse. And what's on the things that people are looking at, what's on Facebook, what's on Twitter, it's essentially government-controlled, propaganda-based. You know, it's fear-based mind control in the most respects, and that will continue to get smaller, more sophisticated, and that's what's controlling the masses. So my fear going forward is that we won't, with the Matrix metaphors flying freely, we won't unplug. We'll actually plug ourselves in more going into the future. So yeah, it's one of those. I don't know how long we've been going, but I tend to try and keep the shows to about an hour. I don't know if you wanted to get some particular points in. We haven't talked about the love of your life. Maybe we want to squeeze there in before we round out this show.
Yeah, no problem. That'd be great. Can I just get like a few minutes, real quick? I just want to run. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you run. You take a quick break, and I'll say hi to the people in chat. I'll run through some of the people now. I've got a few more people watching.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. And I also just want to like point out to the audience that Nathan has done such an awesome job with my avatar. Like I'm using one that he designed, Snack to the Future. He did the logo, and I can't help thank him enough. He's really outdone himself on on all the graphic design for this. So thank you so much, Nathan. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, the Snack to the Future thing, it was a labor of love because I'm learning new software, and I really enjoy doing that. But I just robbed it the backdrop. I don't know if you can see it on screen now. I've got Snack's picture up. Hopefully you can see it presented. But yeah, I just stole it and cut out the backdrop, which meant removing all of the shading between all of the different letters on Snack to the Future, so I could drop it in on a layer. And then I found those funky moon boots. But yeah, the ad was a nightmare in and of itself, because the advert that I made for this show, just using a couple of images from Back to the Future, one of Marty holding the remote control, and there was another one which I can't remember off the top of my head, but just using those still images for, I think in the one case it was up for 0.9 seconds, and that got it a strike. I kid you not, it was a minute-long advert, and 2 images that were actually from the movie Back to the Future. And anybody who's watching this that knows the channel Polarization Nation, who's often locking heads with Russian vids, he will often complain that when he's trying to pull apart parts of Back to the Future, he'll have unbelievable trouble with YouTube keeping the videos actually up on his channel, and he explains some of the editing techniques that he has to actually go through to keep his videos up. And you know, check out Polarization Nation channel. It's definitely worth plugging him on a channel that's using a play on words for Back to the Future, because he does the Marty McFly code, and other channels, Russian Vids included, has covered some of these subjects. There's a few others who I won't bother listing here, but certainly my favorite is Polarization Nation, or Jason James, who's done loads of decodings. If you're into those sorts of videos, pulling apart some of the subliminal messaging that's in Back to the Future, some of the, more interestingly, some of the predictive programming that you've got in Back to the Future, it's well worth checking out Jason James' channel, Polarization Nation Media. I might even put a link to one of Jason James' videos in the description box below, and share one of his videos so you can subscribe to his channel. Some of the things are pretty out there on his channel, I won't lie, but if you like predictive programming type stuff, you'll like his channel. And a lot of his stuff is based on, as I say, if I get back onto my point, a lot of it is based on Back to the Future with the Marty McFly code, where he's pointing out things like flat earth maps and 9/11 predictive programming, which isn't exclusive to Back to the Future. And I'm going to actually ask Snack when he gets back why he picked Snack to the Future. I know he said that he'd used it just so he could ask Crow 777 a question. Hopefully we'll get to find out what that question was, and if you got an answer. I certainly like Crow 777. He's one of my favorites. He does a similar job, but with a bit more of an interactive style content to a channel I was plugging recently off the back of a video I made about the ISS. And Jaron dropped me a message about this. I mentioned in the video that I asked a couple of people in the community, but at the time, Jaron hadn't actually replied, and he did reply. And Jaron's actually seen the ISS going by. I have not. I've discussed it with my brother-in-law who saw it. The reason I'll come back on to Jaron. The reason my brother-in-law saw the ISS flying by is because the BBC here in Britain had instructed people to take their kids outside just before Christmas to show them the ISS and tell them that it's Santa. I kid you not. So he had done precisely as instructed and taken my niece out and shown her the ISS. So he had seen it go by. So other than his descriptions of it, because I've not seen it, I knew that Jaron had seen it and I think even captured it going by, but he's got to lay eyeballs on this item. And I was keen to hear what his opinion of the light in the sky or luminary that I've decided to coin the ISS. And his description was to say that it was very synthetic looking. So based on the fact that it looked artificial, he would not say that it was a luminary. So that was Jaron's opinion on the matter. So he was, unlike a lot of the thumbs up and positive comments that I got about that particular video, is the ISS a wandering star? Jaron was actually a detractor, and frankly, having laid eyeballs on it, I value his opinion on that particular matter quite strongly. But it got a lot of positive comments. I mean, I'm still interested to hear what people have to say on that particular matter, because I have no idea. I'm sure everybody in the chat is going to be the same. I can't think of any particular astrologers who've been tracking it for the last 100 years, but it may very well be the case that the ISS has been up there since year dot. And when, I can't remember who gave this example either, I'm terrible at this sort of thing, when there's people out there who are describing the seeing the ISS and having somebody next to them saying, oh, look at that satellite going by, you can then kind of expand that, wildly theorizing here, you can expand that out into the idea of the satellites in the first place, needing to account for this thing going past a low altitude. And yes, this is wild speculation. I'm not saying that this is the case. It involves lots of conspiracy to say that the ISS has been up there forever, and is in fact the same light in the sky that they told us was Skylab. But it's one of those. I wanted to put it out there to see how people felt about it, and I got a lot of comments on it. Oh, you're back. How you doing, Sats?
Hey, yeah, I was just listening for a few minutes while you're talking.
Listening to me rambling about the ISS.
I thought it was Space Station Freedom that became the ISS or whatever, like in I think it was like 92 or something. Like Clinton renamed it.
That's spot on. That's correct. So the ISS, correct, was Freedom before it was the ISS, but it's the same in that respect. It is the same thing, though. I mean, I'm postulating that what they told us was Skylab or Mir is the same thing. It's just a light in the sky that's always been there, and they just have to keep renaming it, and they can pump a load of cash into what we've got on screen now, this magic show, to convince us and look over here at this, pick apart this airlock and tell us why it wouldn't work in space, which is fictitious anyway, rather than having a good look at this thing that's floating by continually.
Well, I don't know. I did take a look at it. I'd also like, because a friend checked out the ISS and posted a video about it. Mr. B, it was like, I was like looking at it and I was like, wow, it does appear to be this like dual keel design that was accomplished, I think, in like 89 or something. I forget which stage that was, but I don't know. Like, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Could there be something that looks sort of mechanistic out there that's a luminary? It feels like, I should say no, right? Because like by and large, like all stars that we see are like, I guess some, even with a P900, they're kind of like look like kind of cymatic blobs or something like that. The ISS has a kind of a fixed geometrical shape, but at the same time, there's like a lot of elements naturally occurring, like bismuth or even salts that appear to be very mechanistic and square, in their design. So I don't know. I'm sort of reserving judgment on the whole thing, really. But I more or less like I think it's funny that it's called the ISS, right? It's like I is like ninth letter of the alphabet. No, it's in Latin. It's ninth letter.
Ninth.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the SS is like I think the 19th letter. So it's like it's got like 9/11 like all through. I don't know. It's weird. I mean I'm not even like playing gematria games here. I'm just saying like, but the letter value in the alphabet in the English alphabet. There's something strange about it. I've had my own conjectures about like um, what I might think that the ISS is, or like how it is able to appear to be moving at 17,000 miles an hour. Um, that seems tough. It seems tough to have something that moves 17,000 miles an hour, and yet is something you can dock a spaceship with, or another module. Like I don't know. That seems like trying to intercept a bullet and like write your name on it or something. It seems like a little bit far fetched, I suppose. Yeah. But, yeah, not quite sure about the ISS. The ISS, it's a pretty it's a tough one for us to investigate because we can see something in the sky, and record it. But I don't know.
That's exactly my point. There's something in the sky that we can look, and it needs accounting for. And that's the thing that they pump loads of money into this video production of it, and all the things that they can produce from it. The photos that were shown on Globebusters tonight, Jeremy was going through them, he's shown them a few times. To me, they look absolutely authentic. They look like what it looks like, but a bit higher than I've seen myself. So I say, yeah, that looks real. The crap we've got on now, I don't know. It just strikes me as nonsense. Why go through all the effort of making you scrutinize what's on screen now? It seems unnecessary. The thing itself, it seems unnecessary. It just seems like, why bother unless you needed to account for that thing in the sky? That's the only. I don't want to say it's the only conclusion I can come to, because that makes it sound like I've put my stamp on it being a luminary rather than leaving it with a question mark. It's just one of those. Why go to all the effort of showing us this magic show?
You think the ISS is somewhat useless?
I think that I assume that was a joke.
No, I mean, like, what are they doing? Like that shit costs a lot of money to be up there if it's up there, right? So like, what are they? How are they helping? What
But they're
I
not.
have a whole problem with
The
even
purpose
the.
is to program kids. The programming of children is the primary purpose. So the magic show that they presented on the 4K, which was a joke, we won't get into. Well, maybe we'll get into that. But the 4K presentation was a little magic show for children. That's what it was. So the primary purpose is to program kids that space is real.
Yeah, I certainly do believe that, and having like had experience with like teaching kids about the moon landing, um, they never believe that shit. They they will, and if you show them pictures of the moon landing, they will tell you that Star Wars looks a lot more real, and maybe they're right. Like I don't know. I think children are wise in a certain way, and um, yeah, I've heard like a lot of it's weird, to be honest, like to see like how these videos and this idea really does permeate um, so much more than is like indicated by the amount of viewers that we have now, or by even the views that this video may accrue in even a month, right? There, this effect reaches like a lot of people, and a lot of them are very young too, believe it or not. Like I think there's a lot of kids that are on YouTube, you know checking out certain things, maybe video games or this or that. But yeah, they do eventually, somehow they're finding flat earth. And you have like a 8-year-old tell you about how space is fake and how they're hiding something that's even better. Is like, it'll give you goosebumps to hear it, just like unsolicited, like I'm not even trying to, like I even said, hey, don't even fucking worry about that. I didn't say fucking, but let's not let's not talk about that. But yeah, this message is getting out there, and it's reaching a young audience, believe it or not. But So I don't know. I think it's important that we try to take care in this and not just try to win the argument, because that's what we're expected to do. That's what um, it's just kind of like this winning, like I'm the winner mentality that really ruins interaction, like real like one-on-one interaction. Um,
Yeah, you want to be
the
the one
discussion.
with the answers, and all it does is put people off, because telling people what's what isn't any good, especially when it defies what they've been programmed with at a base level that they fundamentally believe anyway.
I agree with what you're saying. But from a personal perspective, like I don't try to tell truth, or, in quote unquote tell truth, because what somebody hears is what they hear. What if I try to portray it as truth, they might say that it's not truth. I'm not paying attention to that. If I just say it like I'm me, if I just say it from my perspective, it's a lot more meaningful than if I try to like make a billboard stick, a billboard bumper stickers logo or something like that, or and try to sell an idea. It's a lot more effective for people to find it themselves. That's how I was able to prove things to myself, and that's why it's like, and not from a bunch of videos that I watched on YouTube. It's it's been through my own perspective. I think that's important. People shouldn't lose themselves in this, or just sign on to this to be part of a group that is a pretty fun group. I think flat earthers in general are pretty awesome. Flat earthers, a lot of them are very creative, uh, inquisitive, intellectual, curious, from many different backgrounds. There's a lot of good things about flat earthers, um, but there's not a lot of good things about like trying to get everybody on one model. That is a little tough, because there are many differing flat earth theories, and many degrees of a standard of proof. I mean, because you have to start out with some sort of reasonable doubt about the world around you. And if you don't have that, then probably flat earth is not for you. If you don't question anything about the reality that you're handed, go have a successful career, go earn six figures, you know what I mean? Go procreate, have a great time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not everybody needs to know about this. Not everybody needs to find this either. And I just wanted to like give a real quick, if I can, just a little shout out to Ace McLeod via a certain person.
Well, you ruined it.
Oh.
Shout out to Ace.
I didn't mean to ruin it. Shout out to
No,
Ace.
it's all good. I mean, what we've heard, I mentioned it earlier. I was gonna come on to this subject anyway. So I've done a couple of videos about dating, believe it or not, which wasn't a subject
Dating.
I ever expected to be making videos about. But there we go. That's how fate has fallen for me. Tell us a little bit about how you two met.
Oh well, it's really interesting, because I had met that somewhere in like around March or April of 2016, either as a moderator on one of Ace's Hangouts, or one of the groups that was doing that. And yeah, she was like kind of fascinated by my name, which I still don't really understand the genesis of. It was just a sort of really random off the cuff thing that I did. And I don't know. I think it's also because like Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies, I guess. I remember like going to see as a kid, and I had been watching some of the I guess the predictive programming videos that are out about Back to the Future, which I find particularly fascinating. So I guess it just all kind of coalesced, and I just came up with the moniker Snack to the Future. Um, at some point, I discovered the live hangouts, like I said, and then um, I met Yvette on maybe it was one of her own hangouts, and that was one of the first times I kind of gone on like live and was talking. I was like, I listened back to it, and like I'm kind of shaking like a leaf and stuff like that. I was ill prepared for it, but just being around it and different hangouts every day. I don't know. Like I got to know Yvette a little bit.
Come on, don't tell us about the Hangouts. Tell us about her.
Tell
us about what you.
I'm trying to hide here. The point at which we started getting really close, I guess, was when we started doing free chant, and we started handing off like you run 8 hours, run this, and it kind of became like a partnership thing. And it kind of snuck up on me, to be honest, because I never approached any woman in flat Earth, being flirty or anything like that. So I didn't expect to get anything back from it. So yeah, at some point we just started to click, and it was around Halloween when I came out here to New Mexico to visit Yvette at the first time, and we had a great time, and I just love the area here, and we just had like such a connection, over months and months. And it was like, I don't know if you know the Issa Mahal song, Moon and Stars, and it's the refrain is like so many miles away. And it was like a lot of longing, I guess. So if you're talking about like a long distance relationship, yeah, this was a 2,000-mile relationship. And for the most part, I'd say very much that the flat Earth community kind of like caused us to be with each other a lot online, and that kind of just coalesced into something else. I think it's a little bit because we were both passionate and engaged in the topic, and I think we saw that both in each other, and it sparked something. So that's where I am today, out here with my sweetheart Yvette, out here in New Mexico, and couldn't ask for anything more, really. I
That's really
it's
sweet.
been great, really.
It's nice. That's what it's always about with any relationship. It's about finding common interest. It's just rare to hear that your common interest was flat Earth, and that's really nice to hear, because ultimately speaking, I don't see that. I think that's going to be less and less uncommon, less and less rare that actually happens, because it's a compelling subject. So to find that there's other people who are compelled by this subject and are of the opposite sex and are single, I don't think that's going to be too uncommon. But to hear it, it's nice, it's sweet.
I was like, so, because at the time, actually, I never really foresaw myself meeting a girl who was into flat Earth. So it was quite surprising to me that this could occur, and I do really feel like, for almost very random reasons, that I've lived a very improbable curve of this scene, which is to actually meet somebody and connect on this kind of level. And it's been fantastic. And I hope everybody can believe that. Like, I've taken so much shit for, for stealing Yvette, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, what that was!
But it's very real. I don't know. I think that I don't know. Maybe there were certain people that were, I don't know. Maybe had feelings for Yvette over some period of time. But
of course, any good woman's going to have other men vowing for their affections. But I'm sure the best man won and all that stuff. So yeah,
no, she's great. She's like absolutely the strongest woman that I've ever met. And I value that, that I like that, and it's great. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words, really, but yeah, it's been a very sweet time, and we've been getting along great, and it's great to have somebody to talk to about this kind of subject, and and share with the agony and the ecstasy of this, as an effort, as any kind of endeavor into trying to discuss this subject. So it's great to have somebody that I know is always in my corner, and that always has my back, and that is probably twice as tough as I am in real life. It's amazing, and it's a shame that, like, she draws fire from a lot of people for that, because she's a beautiful and strong woman. People want to mess with that for some reason, People
should have chanced my arm. I know she's right behind you. Would you be willing to talk to that? Can she hear this?
Can she hear this? Yes, she's listening.
Is she nodding? Would you be willing to speak to that, Yvette? If I don't know, maybe before we round out. I was going to round out, but that's too much of a temptation not to ask. But if you don't want it, just feel free to say no. I won't take any offense.
Oh, I'm just hearing what he's saying now.
Oh, of which part of it, Nathan, or what was the question?
You said she comes under a lot of fire.
Yeah, do you want to talk about being under fire?
Oh, nobody wants to hear about that. I confront it every day.
Well, I'm particularly interested because though this was more true 6 months ago, but there was few women that were in the community and speaking. Does that make sense? Now there's a few more, I'm not going to lie, but you were under fire like Patricia Steer because you were pretty much alone in that respect. Other women that I'd spoken to, I don't want to, no, I might as well name her. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me using her as an example, but Cami, Bob Nodal's wife, Nodal, she was very reluctant to come on camera and talk about what she'd discovered, whereas you were out there in the thick of it. I've heard yourself describing yourself as the troll queen because you were right up, you were completely bucking the trend in terms of what women were doing. You were in the face of the trolls, confronting the trolls and getting a lot of stick for it, and just, man, the stiff upper lip, the dogged determination, that's kind of what I'm trying to lead you to talk about.
Well, I'm actually just I mean, I take things as they come to me, so I'm very spontaneous in the way my emotions are, I don't like brood and hate people. I don't like start conniving and planning, And people want to blame me for literally everything. Like, I didn't talk about Flat Earth enough. I'm a baller. I'm a troll supporter. And like Free Chan emanated from sorry, hold on, I have like a weird echo.
It's okay. I've put you right on the spot, really. But
Whoa, I have like a triple echo. I don't know how to handle this actually.
Oh, right. Have you got? Is it because you're running another PC or something?
On that page. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, after we sort out these slight technical difficulties.
Okay. When I'm not running the Hangout, I'm kind of like a noob with the whole setting myself up. That was Snack's fault. Okay.
This is Yvette, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very pleased to have you.
Hi, I'm Rebel.
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 You've probably seen it scrolling by in the chat. So there's introductions that I should have done earlier over. But yeah. So back to it. Yeah, you've come under a lot of fire because you've been I don't want to say outspoken. You've just said what you want to say.
Oh, I'm very outspoken. I mean, my mother kind of warned me about it my whole life, but there was really nothing she could do about it. I mean, I was like telling off dentists when I was 2 years old. So, I was born this way. I can't fight it. I'm very, if I see someone being attacked, I'm going to defend them. I don't care what side they are on, if they weren't nasty and were just asking questions and people are attacking them. I don't like that lynch mob mentality. So I will try to balance the scales by taking that side. I don't like it when women are attacked, and there's a lot of ugly men who are just women haters, and I'm going to just say it because it's true, and I've encountered them in Flat Earth more than any other community. I've gotten more respect from globe earthers than I have from most people. That's why I can like people like Mr. Bukaki Pies or Captain Bullshit or David Kitana or Tim Osmond, because these people are honest, and they may, well, that's fine. The thing is like, I'm not telling people don't hate these people, but if they're just saying hi and they're getting banned, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to say something about that, And Free Chat emanated because of like this cult mentality that started on Jeff Stewart's show, getting for no reason. So my channel was literally for all the banned people, whether you are Flat Earth or Globe Earth. And people think I was a Flat Earth channel, and they're just a little slow on the uptake on that one. But they want to be like, oh, you let people bash Flat Earth. I'm like, no, I let people talk. If people wanted to bash Globers, they're allowed to do that. I'm not going to discriminate and pick a side and be like exclusive. That's like 1950s segregation mentality, and I'm not going to do that. And I need everyone to recognize it for what it is and stand up against it, because what we're trying to do is unite on a front to take down the people who are lying to us. We're not trying to start another dichotomy of us against them, global mentality. And that's every time I see it, I don't care who it is. And I've taken on Shroomy, I've taken on David Quintana and Tim. All the people that they think I defend, I've also banned and taken on, just as Jeff Stewart and Tim Osmond or anybody else. So people just need to gain some perspective, I guess, and leave the women alone, because the women aren't the ones that are attacking anybody. And so it's these old men with their butthurt feelings attacking women, and the community needs to stand up to them. And I don't care what you believe, it's the community that matters. And
it's really, really nice.
Nobody should stand up for that, right?
Definitely. I heard virtually the same exact thing from my wife earlier, and as I saw her in the chat earlier, she deserves to be talked about. So she was talking about somebody at a workplace that
Shout out to Paula.
Yeah, shout out to Paula. She was saying that somebody had said that they didn't believe in dinosaurs, and the entire office had attacked her. And of course, Paula, who does listen to some of the shows, immediately presented the argument to them. It's like, well, how do they date the rock? Knowing full well that it was a circular argument with, they date it with the fossils. Well, how do they date the fossils? Well, they date it with the rock that they find it in. So she's kind of dropped that little seed in for the big head guy that's putting out his, you're wrong because of this, that, and the other scientific explanation. And she's just dropped that in, mainly for the same reason that you've just said, because everybody was attacking her. She didn't necessarily agree with that. And when I said, well, you were the one who put me onto the dinosaur hoax. And she's like, yeah, but I still, in that respect, keep my options open. It's like, okay, fair enough. But ultimately speaking, she put the counter argument purely because somebody was being attacked and she didn't like it. And you're pretty much saying the same thing. And I don't know, that's, again, like with Snack, I don't know you very well, but immediately, we've started chatting on Skype and stuff and I think we get on well. And it's because you say things like that and immediately it brings a big smile to my face. And I think, that's wonderful. It's nice to hear that people are actually going, sod that. You're not allowed to be like that. It doesn't matter what model you've got. Who cares? You can't be a complete nasty, I don't know what you said, nasty old man, nasty bastard, I would say. But there are a lot of nasty bastards in our community.
There really are,
pointing out. And people like you are an exception because you're pointing them out. And I don't care if I get flack for saying it like this. And you're a woman.
Right. Yeah, I'm not afraid. I've always been kind of, as Swamp Lover just said, shout out to Swamp Lover, I am a scrapper. And I mean, my brother taught me how to fight when I was a kid, and so that stuck with me. And I've taken actual fighting classes. I like to shoot guns. I live in the country. I have to protect myself. He's, I guess, that tough girl. I mean, no matter what, I was never girly. I was never, I like to dress up girly, but I've never been that girl. And, I've never been demure, I guess you could say. It's just not my style. And if somebody wants to come at me saying vile things, I will come at them saying vile things. And then they're just like, and then they think, I'm a guy, I'm really somebody else. Like, this couldn't be Yvette. She's sweet. I'm like, I could be sweet, but don't come at me because I'll come at you too. What do they want me to do? Cower in fear in a corner? And that's the mentality I get. And so they don't like it when I stand up back to them. And that's the problem, is that freaks them out, and their like insecurities and self-esteem like shrivel, like their balls up into their body. So they have to overcompensate with their words, and they just make themselves look like idiots. And so I let them say whatever they want to me. I've always have. Even Jimmy's come at me. Rex has come at me. I don't ban them. You has come at me, and I always get accused of banning people. And it's not me. I want the world to actually see what these people are doing. Why would I remove their comments and hide that?
But you also had your account replicated, so I think it was actually called Yvette, but it had the same.
Yeah. Well, I had to change my name, so I changed it to like Rebel, the real Yvette. That's not me, And so when I changed it back, I couldn't change it again. So YouTube has me locked out for like 3 months, I think, until they have.
Right, but that was specifically, you told me that was YouTube who just basically nicked your account.
And I have screenshots of him admitting that he cloned me, which is, again, I'm like an easy target for some reason, which I don't know why. Maybe people like the challenge because, it's like if Timmy does something, they'll come after me. If P Mars does something, they come after me. If Snack does something, they come after me. I'm like, what the fuck is that all about, right? it's messed up. It's the mentality. That's why, like, and I don't expect an answer to justify it, like my question, like, why attack me when it's these other people doing these things to you? Because these people are mentally unstable, so they're going to attack the woman because in their minds, I'm the one they need to control. It's not the other men, it's the woman. And I'm out of line, right? And I'm here to say you guys are out of line, and I will not fucking stop trolling you until you leave me the fuck alone. Just let people be alone. Like, let them do what they want to do and say what they want to say. Like, you can't control people, and that's not what you're here for. We're here to spread truth. We're here to talk about flat earth. We're not here to tell other people who they can and can't talk to. And that's
Spot
it.
on.
That's
Well
the
said.
bottom line.
No, absolutely well said. You know, that we're not here to instruct other people, and that's kind of what we're trying to get away from. That's what we're exposing. And early on in flat earth, we all fell into those traps, me included. And you know, some people are going to find themselves on paths that are leading them into being nasty bastards. And it takes people like yourself, and I've got a lot of admiration for people like you. There is another attitude that you can take. It's the Patricia Steer method, which is to turn the other cheek, and that in some ways is a lot more difficult to do, but the results are a lot easier to cope with. Whereas the results of not turning the other cheek, going fuck that, and having a full-on assault back and mirroring their actions to them, which is what you and I have both done, doesn't necessarily result in you getting positive feedback. Let's just say it does result in a lot of stick. And I've got it. I mean, I get I haven't been cloned. Maybe I have, but often people will say, "Oh, I saw these nasty comments. It must have been a clone." And it's like, no, that was actually me. That's actually my comment. I mean, I've hopefully moved on and progressed a little bit from that now. You know, lump in my throat, because
You've grown a lot, and when you first started making videos, I found you right away, and I was like, I like this guy. He's so sincere, you know. And then like there was this weird turning point, and I'm like, oh no, I don't like Nathan at all. And like I've seen you grow actually, and you've like dropped things like, unlike other people, you're not hung up on shit that happened in 2015, right? You have a baby, you're like maturing, and this is what people need to do. And sadly, there's people who are 20 years older than us that are the ones that are the most vile, and it's just sad. And I think as a community, we need to like call these people out, and not because we're on any side, but because they're just being vile people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in one respect. You've got to identify these things, but there is a point that once you've identified them, there is a certain camp of people that will continue to address them. I'm going to apologise right now and say, look, we will get back to our regular scheduled snacky footage shortly, but we're getting a bit of a twofer. I'm sure the audience is very appreciative of it, me included, and we will get back to snack. I'm really sorry to hijack your show with your better half, but yeah, talking of better halves, in one of the chat rooms, I'll drop this in. You're probably going to hate me for saying this on air, but you were talking about using Snack, the name, and Snack said, "Oh yeah, occasionally I get called Snack by Yvette," and I said, "Oh, is it when you're in trouble? Is it when you've not done the dishes?" And I just dropped that in as a random joke, not knowing that it actually struck a nerve. And I found that out just before the show when that conversation was still going days later.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, there's a just ridiculous rumor that's going around about dishes, you know, because the conspirators can't understand that like normal things happen between people or family, you know, and hot mics happen, and you know, whatever, but they think that we're trying to censor satellite dishes. And, you know, I don't even want to discuss it because it's so ridiculous.
I totally agree. Before I let you go though, Yvette, could I just ask you?
When he's in trouble, I use his name, his name, like solid. You know, I don't call him Snacky, but I call him that, like if I know where I'm like on mic or something. You know,
yeah,
because
I'm just
I
toying with you.
respect his and I respect his decision to remain anonymous, and only because like when the pressure comes on for people to be like, no, now you have to show yourself, and I'm like, no, now you have to not. You know, like I'm more than happy. My name and my face have been out there since the beginning, so that's not a big deal. But it's more of like you don't give in to terrorists, you don't give in to blackmail, you don't give in to these people who are trying to coerce you and bully you, you know. And it's not because there's anything to hide, but because they can't win. That mentality cannot win.
Before I let you go, I will ask you, just because I might not get the opportunity again. So it's the flat Earth question I asked halfway through the show with Snack. So how did you find out the Earth is flat?
You know, I had been researching the moon landings, and it was the summer of 2015. Well, not quite the summer. It was a springtime, actually. So it's been 2 years for me now. And I had been at home alone, sitting from my mom and watching all the animals, and I had had a few drinks. I think I'd come back from a party, and so I was watching my videos as usual, you know, like my little rotation before I fall asleep. And it's like right before I passed out, I heard like an Alex Jones clip of like something about flat Earth, and I was like making a mental note, and I was like, oh, what was that? I have to look that up. You know, like, what was that thing he said about flat Earth? And it took like 2 weeks for me to remember. Finally, I was like, oh yeah. So I looked it up, watched a couple of videos on journalism. I commented in a lot of videos, and it didn't even take that long. My database in my head just kind of went, you know, I ran through my whole entire history of all my knowledge, my entire college career, you know, my entire career working at Los Alamos National Labs and Sandia National Labs. And instantly after that, like I just watched a few videos. I had a few questions answered for me. I challenged a few things, and after that I was just like, yeah, it's totally flat. Like there's no disputing it. I mean, just based on everything I know from my own knowledge and education, it's never been addressed. And everything I know from my mathematics degree, everything is done on a linear plane. It's all done on a Cartesian plane. All the other stuff is theoretical, but real life physics is always done on a Cartesian plane, XY. You know?
The starting point is always flat, because that's what reality is.
Right. So I'm going to hand this over before I take over. I'm going to take the puppy out.
Yes, so, a massive thank you to Yvette. It's been an unexpected pleasure, but yeah, it's been really nice chatting to you. Thank you so much.
You too, Nathan. And thanks to everybody in the chat. I always call you out by first name, so you know who you are.
Right. Cool. So yeah, back
awesome.
to Snack. Yeah, it was good fun chatting with Yvette. Again, like with yourself, I don't know Yvette particularly well, but you know, I said to her in a Skype message earlier, I trust Yvette, and it's something that you instantly get with certain people, and it's only through actually having these sorts of conversations that you realise the type of people that you're dealing with. Obviously, it's artificial. This is a show. It's not like the conversation we'll undoubtedly have off air, but it's close enough for people to get a vague idea about the cut of your jib, so to speak. And it's been really nice actually chatting to you and finding out what you're about.
Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for inviting myself and Yvette on. It's been good. I've been taking a lot of crap in chats and stuff. A lot of no, like, unfounded gossip, which is sort of a steady mainstay in the flat Earth. In my opinion, anyway. This coming at me. You know, multiple people making videos, and yeah, it's just I don't care. Like I know that they're attacking somebody that is not me. The way in which people are going after my girl is not right, and they need to stop it, or else I'm not going to stop it with them. I don't really have a problem antagonizing people who are wrong, and I'll be honest with you, any video that's made about Yvette is not accurate. So I don't know, shit.
It's okay.
I'm sick of it. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm really sick of you know, people trying to say things about her only to get back at me. You know, trying to like say bad things about her just to hurt me, or vice versa. This is like, it's uncalled for. Prove your fucking ball Earth. You know what I mean? You don't need to attack me for loving someone. You know.
Yeah, it's worse than just the standard ad hominem attack. And Yvette addressed this quite eloquently already. It's one of those, to attack her just to get to you. It is quite pathetic, especially when the reaction they're trying to get is exactly what you've just said, which is prove your model. And it's like, why are you addressing my my love of my woman over the fact that I believe the Earth is flat. It's just a total non sequitur. It's not necessary. It's unfair and it's unreasonable. But these are the kind of things I am quite pleased it's got on air, actually, now you've said it, because these are the kind of community-based things that we do need to address, we do need to look at and discuss, and that's how we move forward and that's how we evolve. So yeah, thank you.
No, that's really good. Thank you so much, Nathan, for having us on. And yeah, like I just appreciate the ability to like kind of, I don't know. It's weird, man. Like I spent like, I feel like 9 months, you know, proving myself, proving my genuine qualities, and to have had them assailed by multiple persons for a duration of time was difficult to witness. Difficult to witness. Your like, I mean, imagine like you came to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to take 2 months off of YouTube, and everybody wants to like, you know, gnaw at you. It's tough to watch that. I really feel like that was a good, though, because it kind of took me a little bit outside of like thinking I'm this YouTube personality, or to think that I'm anybody, because I'm as disposable as the next person in this chat right now. Like, all you need to do is just talk shit about me, and I'll be whatever you want me to be, right? Fact is, I've been in the corner of flat Earth all this time. I've never had any. I don't know. Like I've been accused of being like paid off, or I don't, all kinds of things, man. Like that are not true. Um, I've literally just done the best job that I could have possibly done with what I was given, and that's all I ever try to do. Um, you know, and I think as for Yvette, like, you know, she's just like lived her truth out as far as she can too. And we've crossed, you know, our opinions aren't always in line. Sometimes I think something that she doesn't, you know. Um, you know, we work that out, but and I work it out with anybody. Like I'm supportive of this cause. I'm supportive of the dialogue that needs to happen in order for this to keep evolving, and I'm supportive and I think celebratory of the people who are in flat Earth that I like. Um, and there are some people who seem to kind of substitute their flat Earth advocacy by like basically trying to gossip and belittle others. I don't consider that anything worthwhile. Um, they might, they might like see fit to talk shit about me after this hangout's over. Um, However, I've only tried to do one thing here, and that's to be in support of the side that's trying to say something. If you're just trying to repeat Wikipedia quotes, then to me that's really not very original. If you have a theory about flat Earth, if you have some thoughts on the conjecture of it, I've always tried to like hear those people out, um, because they're interesting to me, you know. And this whole thing started out to me like from my perspective, like I was out there trolling the original Andrea Sensi hangouts under what was called Hitching for Truth, under what was a brand account of Flat Earth Hub. And I'm not trying to like point out anybody here, but that hangout was wrong. There were a lot of um, race trolls that were like invited to that to kind of make it a spectacle. And so that for me was part of the awakening that I need to kind of be on here, at least to kind of counter what kind of garbage is going to come down the pipe, you know. And so to be attacked for anything really feels like, man, that sucks. Like all I've done is try to do the best I can, to try to like level this playing field. You know, the only people for a time, you know, the only people that were running opposed to us was flat Earth debates or flat Earth discussions. All right, and later Ed, I guess, but Ed wasn't so bad because Ed was at least honest. Ed was Earth debates, Earth discussions, right? These other debates that were said to be flat Earth debates were really geared more towards the consensus opinion, the baller mentality, and they're basically to torture and demean anyone with a differing opinion. And I thought, hey, so I'm like, let me do what I can. Let me do whatever I can. But I didn't inherit this big audience. You got 120 people watching right now. There's other channel owners that have got 300 people. I mean, maybe we got up to like 89, 100, somewhere around there on certain big shows. But there wasn't this kind of viewership available to us, at the time. And even like Flat Earth debates was using, in my opinion, they were using bots of some kind to be able to kind of like inflate their viewership, make it look like they were reaching more people, which I think in turn drew more people to them to kind of discuss this topic. And yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff, man. I've seen a lot of stuff with people, changes in people, um, people that are. I mean, I can see the journey that people are on sometimes, and I know that they're months away from like getting to something else. I've seen people start out from nowhere, like when Issa came on. Issa Mahal is a friend of mine, and we'd never discussed anything about flat Earth, and I'd like been out of touch with him for about a decade, and to see him like pop up on YouTube and fighting for the flat Earth was like, wow, like this is really doing something. I'm really pleased that Issa is out there doing his thing, and he's just a friend of mine that I had, and we never really talked. I think at some point around like Sandy Hook, I'd like tried to talk to him, and he was talking about the conspiracy theory for Sandy Hook, and I was like, whoa, let me get out of here. I'm not talking to this guy. He's crazy. See him come back 10 years later, after all he's been through, and to be like such a champ about discussing this topic is really inspiring. Like, even though we kind of like have suspended doing the free chan, I see free chan in a lot of different channels, and I have to smile every time I see it. I don't know if like you're talking, or if am I just talking over you? Shit. Let me see what's going on here.
No, it's all good. I mean, you've
Okay.
nicely summarized the sort of finding commonalities with people, finding where you agree with them rather than finding where you disagree with them. And that is summed up nicely by saying put people before models. That's what it's all about. And I think in what you're saying, it nicely typifies how free chan has operated. It tended to have a nicer atmosphere about it, even though some of the people in there we've seen them in the chat, creating hundreds of troll accounts, and their intentions are to cause chaos, discord, havoc. That's what they want. But there, they had a platform to find common ground with people like yourself and Cathexis and Spec, and it's nice. It was more unifying. But off the back, like what we said, like I said with Yvette, to find that all you're getting back is ad hominem because of your model, or I don't know, I haven't even discussed your model, if you have one at all. It's farcical, and it's social behavior, and that's something that Flat Earth is also addressing for the most part. But yeah, I think we might round up there. We've had a nice extended show. I'm really pleased that we got to chat to Yvette. But was there anything you wanted to add before
24 hours, Nathan.
Say again?
We have to go 24 hours, Nathan.
It's not going to be 24 hours. It's not going to be a 4-hour epic for this one. I try and keep them under 2 hours these days. So yeah,
they're watchable.
Wanted to add though before we do round out.
No, I just wanted to say, like, thank you to all the people that kind of had my back over this period of time. Thanks to all the real friends that I have out there, and keep asking questions, flat earthers, because you may find some good answers that are going to stick. And yeah, I wanted to thank you, Nathan, for giving Yvette and I an opportunity to kind of like clear the air a little bit about some of these issues. It's been a kind of a strange couple months for us, but I do hope we eventually get back to doing free chan, and I hope that the community is ready for it too. A big credit to any of the new channels that have come up. Shout out to Ace.
Shout out to Shroomy.
Big credit to the new channels that have come out that are trying to do the work. Really, it fills my heart with some good things to feel like, whatever effort we put out, nature bores a vacuum, and it was filled. It was filled by many other hangouts, and I hope that it becomes so many hangouts that it's uncontrollable. Uncontrollable.
With that, I will say one last massive thank you, first and foremost, to Snack to the Future. Check him out if he broadcasts live on FreeChan, and indeed some of the FreeChan broadcasts. And of course, Yvette, an impromptu guest, which has been a real pleasure having you here. Thank you very much, Snack and Yvette. And also a massive thank you, of course, to all of the people who have joined us live on this broadcast. Thank you very much. Be sure to like. Who else? You've got a few more shout outs. Go ahead.
I'd like to give a shout out to Proprietor. Shout out to Helio Skeptic. What you doing, man? I'd like to give a shout out to Patricia Steer, Flat Earth and the Hot Potatoes. You're awesome. Shout out to Silver Wolf. Shout out to Knowledge Scavengers. Shout out to what did I miss? Did I miss anybody?
We like shout outs because Jed hates them.
You know who taught me about shout outs was Cynthia. Cynthia is the shout out queen.
Yeah,
shout out to Cynthia.
Underground Johnny.
Shout out to Underground Johnny. Shout out to Dave Hinkle. Shout out to Issa Mahal. Shout out to Cathexis. Shout out to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Shout out to all my friends. Anybody else I might have missed. It's been an awesome journey, and I do appreciate all the friends that are still with me. Thank you, and thank you, Nathan. I know we didn't start off on the.
I want to give a shout out to John Watson and you too.
Why do that?
Because they're always
Why are you
there.
shouting them out?
Okay. She said because they're always there, I guess. Also,
Yeah,
shout out to
I mean,
ADR. I
that
know
was
you're not
awesome.
around here.
I've needed a good teacher of how to do shout outs because I'm terrible at them. I'm really poor. But yeah, on that note, I will definitely say one last thank you to our audience, and to you, Snack, and to you, Yvette. Be sure, if you're watching this on the upload, to comment below, like, subscribe if you've not already. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.